Welcome to Corks in Conversation with Veronica Gutierrez.
I'm so looking forward to talking with her about her debut novel, As You Look.
Yes.
She also has published another book, which I'm also very excited to talk to her about, called My Little Black Cocktail Book.
Yeah, that sounds like another book of hers that we would really like.
Yes.
But first, let me go ahead and give some information about Veronica. So, Veronica Gutierrez is a former community organizer, civil rights attorney, municipal employee, nonprofit leader, and corporate executive.
That's quite a list.
Yes, so she draws from years of experience in those worlds for her writing. And it sounds like she's got a lot to draw from there. So she was born and raised in Boyle Heights, and that's the Los Angeles neighborhood that her protagonist, Yolanda Avila,
Alvin.
she's a PI, and that's where she calls her home. And Veronica and her wife, Laura, split their time between Los Angeles and San Francisco. Both are home bar enthusiasts and avid travelers. As You Look is her debut novel and is described as a must read Latinx LGBTQ plus, sorry, let me say that again. Latinx LGBT, is it LBG or LGB? I'm reading
Either
it
one.
wrong. Okay.
LGB is good.
Yeah, that's how I always was saying it, but I'm reading it LBG and I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? All right, okay. Latinx LBGTQ plus crime fiction novel, which again is a lot. So, Veronica, it's so nice to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm excited because not only is Veronica a debut novelist, she's also another kind of ist. She's a mixologist.
Yeah. I know we really should have done a little bit of mixed drinks for this episode, but
I
we're kind of
know.
excited about the wine as well.
Yeah. So Veronica, you recommended the wine today, and I am very excited about it. I was able to get it, and I was worried I couldn't here in my little grocery in South Dakota, but I was able to get it. It is the Rambauer Zinfandel,
Yes.
and I poured a little glass here. So I will read the tasting
Oh,
notes, and you guys can take a little sip, and then we'll have a cheers to Veronica. So this Zinfandel is, when poured, a purple ruby color with a bright crimson hue. On the nose, there are concentrated aromas of dried cherries that meld with warm vanilla, mocha, and mullein spices. Lush flavors of ripe plum and raspberry jam flood the palate, followed by touches of dark chocolate in the background. Subtle and round tannins add length for fresh and enticing finish.
yum.
I know. So cheers to you, Veronica,
Thank
and
you.
your
Cheers.
debut. Yay!
Cheers.
So this wine is above
I
our
all
price
those
range.
a dry red wine.
Oh, it's nice. Wow.
Um, but you can get half bottles that are under $20. So
Yeah, yeah. If you want to be a stickler for the price, but
if you
this
want to
is
be
a
a
very
stickler.
nice. This is a nice bottle. Yeah.
That's right.
Veronica, what made you choose this one?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that.
I just said, what made you choose this selection? Was this a
Oh,
favorite
this
of
one,
yours?
yes, this one is actually one of my favorites. My wife and I were introduced to it at a Boys and Girls Club fundraiser by someone who really loves wine and is really, into them much more than we are, because we're more into cocktails, and we love it. And we have it in our home every time someone's over now.
This is a new one. I do love the Zinfandel, but this is very nice.
Yeah, this is really nice. I didn't used to like Zinfandel. In fact, when I first had this one, I thought, really, a Zinfandel? I thought it was going to be overly sweet or something. And this is just so tasty. And it goes really great with charcuterie and cheese.
Oh,
And
favorite.
I love Zinfandels. I mean well, the regular Zinfandel, not the white Zinfandel or whatever. That's one that can be sweet. But I
Yeah.
like them because always love when they say that there's chocolate in it. You know, tasting. So,
So let's, before we get to your novel, let's talk about your mixologist background a little bit. I'm very curious about this.
About which background? I'm sorry, you're
Oh,
cutting
your
out a little. The
interest.
mixology. So I figured that that's probably what got me this interview, right? Even more than the book. So we're both home bar enthusiasts. We split our time between LA and San Francisco, and for quite a while there, we were each living in a different city. So every time I would go up to San Francisco, when Laura came there, she would want to go and take me to this, fancy dinner or whatever. And it was mostly on weekends. And I thought, you know what, I don't really want a big dinner. What I really want to do is just go somewhere, have a drink, have some appetizers, and then go somewhere else and have a drink and another appetizer. And she started curating all of these bars in San Francisco, these bar visits. Some of them were, some of the underground bars in San Francisco, and the speakeasies. And we found that the bartenders were really generous with their knowledge of their drinks, and we'd come home and we'd try to make them. And made them a lot during fall season because we have a bunch of friends who would come over and watch football, and I'd make cocktails. And most of the time I missed the touchdowns because I was making them in the kitchen. So we ended up putting a bar in our TV room, essentially.
perfect.
And so now I don't miss the touchdowns. So we make it there. And
I want to score an invite to that.
I know, me too. I'll be there.
You're always welcome.
That's so great. I absolutely love that. Well, I don't regret this wine because I'm so thankful that you introduced us to this. This is very nice. But next time we do this, we have to have you suggest a cocktail for us.
I would love to.
Yeah, and I really liked, because you have a whole mixology on a mission, which is a new term I learned, philanthropic cocktailing. I mean, come on, that's awesome.
I mean, I'm in.
Yeah.
All the way.
That's a great way. So everybody should check out that website, right? Because somehow you're able to raise money for philanthropies, I guess, while you're mixing cocktails.
That's right. That's right. We did most of them in person, and then when the pandemic hit, we started doing some of them on Zoom. So it's not quite as interactive, but it's still a lot of fun. People just found ways to have fun on Zoom, and it ended up being the kind of thing where you can even go national. You can get people who wouldn't come to your fundraiser attend on Zoom and learn how to make a cocktail. It's a lot of fun.
Fun.
Okay, let's talk about this debut novel. Whoop,
I
whoop.
know, yeah. It was a page turner.
I know. I wish I had. We've seen the cover artwork, but we have the galleys, so I can't hold up the beautiful cover. We'll have it in our social media and our blogs when we share this episode because it's a really beautiful cover. So,
yeah,
Christy,
you
tell
don't
us all
happen to
about
have a cover, do you, Veronica? There.
I don't have it here with me, although I do have the picture somewhere that I might be able to hold up. Let me think about that while we're going through this. And
Yeah,
I'll-
don't worry. We'll definitely have it in social media.
My brother took the picture. So
Oh, really?
he's a teacher and a photographer, and I love his pictures. I love his photography, and it's a scene from the neighborhood where the story takes place, right by where I grew up. And it's a scene of downtown LA over what is called the 6th Street Bridge, which is now being rebuilt. But I'm so glad that he captured it before it was torn down, because it also places the novel in time. So it's before the rebuilding of that bridge.
Oh, very
that's
cool.
so cool.
Yes.
I love it even more now.
There you go. So let's get into the questions here. But first, I'll tell everybody, I guess, a little bit about the storyline in this book. The main character is Yolanda Avila. Do I pronounce the L, Veronica?
Avila.
Okay,
Avila.
Avila. And she's a Los Angeles private investigator, and she has she was a cop, but that didn't work out, and they go into some details. But she becomes a private investigator, and right in the beginning, her godson gets kidnapped. So there's this whole storyline, and she's dealing with grief, and then she has maybe some psychic ability, which you call juju, and I just love that aspect of it. I'm thinking, if I was a detective, I'd want to have some juju. But but what can you tell us? How did you come up with the juju aspect, and what can you tell us about that?
So it it is actually a novel that is based on little different parts of my life, right? So it's not autobiographical by any means, but the different experiences are either the types of experience I've had or the type of experiences that friends or family have had. So the way I like to describe it is that she is a woman who is dealing with grief and guilt and the intersection of those two with some nascent psychic tendencies that she, as a detective who wants to focus on facts, rejects. And the story overall is partly her coming to terms with that and with grief all along. But the individual experiences, I have one scene in there where she describes what they call the healing with an egg, and that is something that is very,
Okay.
and a lot of Latino culture. Actually, it was a healer, a spiritual
Okay.
healer.
Veronica,
So
we have to. I didn't hear any of that. Did you, Kathy?
I heard there was some space, but I heard. I mean, I heard the beginning. I heard the end. Are you not able
Okay.
to
Well,
hear
I
it,
didn't
Christy?
know if because it went out right when she said
The egg.
the egg.
So I
Yeah,
was dying. Actually, it was
I
kind of
know.
funny because I was
I
like,
knew it was.
"Tell me about the egg."
Yeah. So if you could start with where you said about the egg, and
About the
then
egg.
just kind of repeat that, we can get it.
sure.
Sorry.
Sure. In the book, I describe a scene where the godmother uses an egg in a healing ritual, if you will. And that is something that a lot of Latino cultures have and recognize it. And it's not unusual in those cultures. So.
Okay, so we did miss a little in the middle, but I think I want to ask you a question based on what I think you were saying. So you mentioned that the egg is part of your family, or was it Latino cultures?
Yeah,
Can you
healing.
just kind of talk about that a little bit? Because it cut out right when you started talking about it. We're having a lot of trouble for whatever reason. It's frustrating, but
Yeah.
it's the internet.
Yeah. So what happens is that in a lot of Latino cultures, there is spiritual healing where someone prays over you when you're sick and that type of thing. In some rituals, the healer will use an egg and basically scan the egg over you while praying, and that is supposed to heal you. And a lot of people believe it's effective. I experienced that. My sister's godmother was a spiritual healer, and she used it on me when I was remember fourth grade, and it I think it did cure me. I don't know. It could have been psychosomatic, but it definitely
Wow.
worked from as far as I could tell. And a lot of Latino cultures have that. So a lot of Latinos who read the book will recognize it.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, so that's like that's where that whole kind of juju thing comes in too, right? Because it's like just like a sixth sense or something that it's a lot of Latino culture people how I don't even know. I'm like trying to talk and I'm like,
No,
sorry.
yeah. So I am curious more about the juju though. That is also part of the culture that you grew up with. Like that was something that people talked about.
Yeah, it's not exactly the way that I portray it in the book, but it is something that is fairly common. In the book, she runs across people who bring it up as
Yeah.
a matter of fact type of thing, and it is something that you can run across quite a bit, in fact. In
Yeah,
my family. So.
Yeah.
I've noticed, well, I live in South Florida, so we have, I have a lot of Latina friends and the culture is around us. And so I do feel like that, there's just like a more spiritual part of it that we don't always, you know, see, but I love how it's brought out in this book.
Mm-hmm. I was the very first time I think you mentioned it in the book was right away when she wasn't sleeping well, and her wife Sydney, who we will get to because I really like her character, says, "Uh-oh, like the juju's back" or something, and I thought, "Oh, this is going to be so good." I just thought that was so great. So, okay, speaking of, do you mind if we segue to Sydney? Because I really like Sydney.
Okay, I like her too.
One of the things right away that I like so much about your book is that Yolanda has although she's struggling with grief and guilt, she has a really good, solid relationship. And I love seeing the PI or the detective or your protagonist so often has got a really messed up home life or personal life. And I love that you chose to do the opposite. And so I wanted to ask you about that.
Sure. Well, that was quite intentional. I've experienced the same thing when reading novels where the detective is broken, barely function at all. In this case, I wanted, because it's, especially because it's a gay character, it's a lesbian relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have a positive portrayal of it. In so many books, so many novels, so many movies, the lives of lesbians are overly dramatic and tragic,
Mm-hmm.
and that does not speak to me. And it's not my life, it's not my experience, and it's not the experience of most of my friends and family. So I wanted something that would more accurately reflect who we are and how we are.
I love that you made that intentional choice, especially when you're trying to represent, the lesbian relationships, because you have this opportunity, right? So you want to, and I love that you made that intentional choice. We had the same conversation, Christy, with another author,
Yeah, it was
Debbie
Dana
Dana
Stabenow.
Stabenow, who writes great fiction that takes place in Alaska, really exciting. She's super successful. And she was talking about how she liked how unusual it was to have a good, solid relationship for her main character too, and how kind of refreshing that is. And so,
Yeah. So now we have two examples.
I know too, and all of the
And Cathi, and
years.
Cathi too, because Cathi is living the
Yeah.
wonderful relationship with her husband.
Well,
So,
so is Veronica, but
yeah.
so
Not me, sorry.
Yeah,
It'll happen.
it'll happen. This is just a dating app, basically, Veronica for Christy. That's what we're doing here. So, well, I love it. Okay, so listen, you guys, we're midway. It's time for a little drink, and it's also the time, Veronica, where we ask the authors we get to talk to the question on a bottle. And it's a question that might come up at the bottom of a bottle, or in your case, after a few mixology drinks.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
All right. So, yes, of course. If you could have only one drink for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Actually, this is probably gonna be hard for her.
The Boulevardier. Actually, the a riff on the Negroni. It has bourbon or whiskey. So it's usually
Okay, can
equal
you
parts
repeat that
whiskey
again?
and
Because I didn't hear any of
okay.
it. The boat.
Okay.
What's the name of
So
it?
the okay. So the
Sorry.
Boulevardier is a riff on the Negroni. It is equal parts bourbon instead of gin, and sweet vermouth, and Campari. So what I do is less Campari, and I sometimes switch out the bourbon with mezcal, which is
Oh.
also lovely. So
Okay, all of the things you
Wow.
just said are totally new to me, and I need to expand my horizons immediately.
I know. I know. Kathy, we're gonna, we're gonna have to write this down and try
Actually, we're
it
gonna have
later.
to order Veronica's mixology book, and so we can
Yes,
start making
there you go.
our own notes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I know.
Oh, well, what about you, Kathy?
okay, you just got
What about you, Kathy? What kind of drink would you have if you could only have one drink for the rest of your life?
Okay, this is just not fair because I don't even have the language or the vocabulary that Veronica has. But for a beverage of like an evening beverage, I would choose just a nice. I would actually choose this.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even know which wine I picked, and I was like, this is going down very nicely.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a good choice.
How about
Yeah.
you, Christy?
Well, that sounds good to me too.
All right.
But we
so
all would have to have water as well, I
Well,
think,
that's
or we would
a
die.
given, right?
But
Yeah, that's a good. I am really excited to talk to you, Veronica, about your really interesting list of all of the careers you've been involved in. And if you could tell us tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to writing. I'm so curious about that segue.
sure, sure. I can't keep a job apparently.
I was wondering, did you do all these all at once, or
No, definitely after another. I graduated from college, didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went to law school. And then when I got out of law school, I worked. Yeah, there you go. I worked in politics a little bit, which is the municipal work that I did, working as an organizer and working for the city, a city council member, several city council members, worked on a lot of political campaigns. And then I wanted to practice law before writing it off altogether. So I did. I did civil rights litigation for a couple of years. And it was a great difference between the two, because whereas at the city and as an organizer, your phone's ringing off the hook, you can barely have time to go to the restroom. When you're a lawyer, you actually have time to sit and think and write. And I love that part of it. But the law doesn't change all that much. And as much as I love my clients, it became kind of rote. So I would just, filling in the blanks on a lot of motions and stuff. You almost feel like a glorified clerk of the court as a litigator. So I ended up going back to the city. And then a friend called me and said, "Now you're bored there. Why don't you come and work at this corporation?" And it's basically the same type of work with more money.
Oh.
So, why would I say?
Okay.
sign me up?
So that happened. I ended up staying there for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
And was fortunate enough to be able to retire early. But again, it was one of those jobs where the phone's ringing off the hook, you're running from one thing to another, you're on call 24/7, and you really don't have a whole lot of time to concentrate. But I always had this story in the back of my mind. And I had decided that once I retired, especially if I retired early, I would try and write it, which I did. And then there was a lot of serendipity that came along. I spent the first 4 months just reading, and I loved it. I just read everything I could read because I hadn't had time to. And I read this one book by Lisa Cron called Story Genius, which is about the psychology of pulling people into a story. And then she had a workshop soon after that, which I applied for and did. And I said, well, I have a story, I can do this. And I hooked up the group called yeah, Author Accelerator, which helps new writers with book coaches. And the coaches actually help you develop the story and get through the writing as well. And I did that. That took another 9 months or so. And it all seemed to work out fairly well. You know, things came together. My brother, you know, took the picture, and we ended up putting that on the cover. I interviewed a private investigator who I did not know at the time actually had an office in the building that I described in the book.
Oh, the
And
Whoa.
Bradbury
Whoa.
or whatever it was, or
What'd you say, Christy?
I thought I was
yes,
trying the
the
name of the
Bradbury
building.
building.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That is some synchronicity or something. That's pretty cool.
That's some
Yeah, that's good.
juju.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
some juju.
that's some juju. That's right. That's right. You know, I also had because Sydney is a doctor in the book. I had a doctor read it, and he actually someone we met at a party, and he liked reading, and he wanted to read it. He offered to read it, and I didn't know if he was really serious,
Yeah.
but he runs the emergency room in Pittsburgh, and said yes, I'd be happy to read it. So he did, and he made some recommendations regarding one reason, but he was able to confirm some of that for me too. So that was serendipitous as well. He just came
Yeah.
along and confirmed that stuff for me.
That is
Yeah, that is cool.
okay.
I
So
was wondering, you know, I did notice something when I was reading the when she gets hit over the head. I'm not going to give anything away, and I'm
Mhm.
not going to say who gets hit, but it was like that you didn't have to keep waking people up when they had a concussion. I thought that
oh,
was true, but you don't, according to the book, according to
according to Veronica's depth of
Sydney.
medical knowledge,
Yeah.
I I so but you wrote it. How did you get involved with Bella Books? Because I am fascinated. I'd never heard of Bella Books before. And I have to tell everybody their tagline is brilliant. It's women, period, books, period, even better together. I was like, oh, like that's such a great tagline.
Well, it's a women who love women, basically, is what they focus on, and a lot of lesbian literature comes from them. They are the premier publisher
So great.
of lesbian novels, essentially. So I had read quite a few of them, and so knew about them through that. But there are a lot of other publishers as well, and I was just fortunate that that they picked it up, and they have been absolutely wonderful in working with me as a new
Wow.
author.
That's so great. All the things just fell into place.
More serendipity.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes, they
that's
do.
so cool. So what are you working on now?
Yeah.
So right now it's going to be released on the 17th. So I'm doing several podcasts, doing some guests on social media, and a little tied up with some home care issues with my mom. But for the most part, we're moving along, and I've started to develop the sequel, the second book. So
Yay.
I'm working on that. I'm getting excited about that and doing the research on it, and looking forward to just nailing it down. And I just do the process. It was so therapeutic for me. It really was. Just to be able to concentrate on this. And I had to explain to my wife, and she says, "Well, you can pick it up here and there, and now because she's a lawyer as well. And usually when you're doing litigation, you can pick up stuff for an hour or two during the day." But you can't when you're writing a novel, because you really have to, submerge yourself into this other world. And it takes a while to do it. For me, it takes a couple of days to be able to get into it and just run with it. So,
Right.
but it's fun. It's a tremendous,
Yeah.
tremendous amount of fun.
I know. You're making me excited to start. Kathy and I are both writers as well, but we're not published yet. But we, for various reasons, like you said, have gotten away from our writing part of our day. And I am excited to start that again because I really feel like I'm ready and I need to have that therapy again.
That's awesome. All right. So, Yolanda, so I almost called you Yolanda, your main character. Clearly, it stuck with me. Veronica, before we go, we always have a final question that Christie has for you.
Yes. So the question is,
Okay.
which of your characters would you like to share a meal with, and what would it be?
Okay, you cut out a bit there.
Okay. So the question is, which of your characters would you like to share a meal with, and what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably because Sydney has the same culinary taste as my wife and I do. I might want to try something different. I might want to actually have dinner with Sydney's mom, who is from Alabama and is a quite good as a Southern cook, which I didn't put too much in the book, but I think I would be interested in having something that she would cook up.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Love that.
I know.
I love that.
I'm like I'm in the southern area, so I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Veronica, when our listeners want to reach out and learn more about you, where should they go? Your website, social media, where are you most active?
Oh, they can probably get the most information on the website at veronicagutierrez.com. I do a little stuff on Twitter, and now all the links are on, my social media links are on that website. So veronicagutierrez.com is probably the best one to look at.
We will have all that linked in our show notes and all of our social media as well.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
There's
Look,
the picture.
Yeah, if you're watching us on YouTube, the picture is on our phone. It's so pretty.
I know. I can't believe your brother took that. That's awesome. We'll get him to take our pictures.
I think your brother's going to have a burgeoning career.
Well, he's absolutely wonderful. He does a lot of weddings.
That's so cool.
He's great. He does a lot of artistic stuff too. So
that's really neat.
Nice.
Well, it's been so fun talking with you. Thank you for introducing this lovely wine to us. And we're so thrilled for you for your debut.
Thank you.
And I think all we have to do is
having me on.
Absolutely. And now we've got to definitely do a cheers with
All right. Cheers to Veronica.
Cheers.